Hey, what is up, mortals? It is Mr. Zombie here with a new video for ya. Welcome to part 18 of What If Izuku Had a Villain Quirk. I just wanted to greet you guys by saying sit back and relax. You're in for a treat. So, we begin. The capture of a UA student by the League of Villains had the public in an outroar. The media questioned if the school could truly keep their students safe with the newest development being laid bare. The school, and more specifically Eraserhead, swore that they were doing all they could to keep their kids safe, while searching for the captive pupil. Many were doubtful of their promises. Inko Midoriya was a mess, sobbing over the disappearance of her son. She was currently at UA, attending a meeting with Nezu to see what they were doing about his kidnapping. The mother wasn't the only one racked with worry. All of 1A, especially Yaoyorozu and Todoroki, couldn't stop thinking about what was happening to their fellow hero in training. Shoto was visiting her, the girl offering comfort to the heterochromatic boy who was currently shoveling blame onto himself. Shoto, please, it isn't your fault that they took Izuku. We were up against a group of very powerful villains. We did what we could. A look towards the male revealed to her that the male still appeared inconsolable. She looked down at her hands, trying to muster up something in her mind that would bring him from the depressed state he was in. A thought suddenly hit her. A memory of the earlier meeting she had with All Might and Detective Naomasa. You don't have to worry, Shoto. Izuku will be found soon, I know it. Dual-colored eyes met her gaze. I managed to get a 1B student to weld our tracking chip to the back of one of the League's monsters. The authorities possess a receiver I made to catch the signal and track him down. What? Why didn't you tell me? The boy stood up suddenly, a look of determination glinted in his eyes. We can save him ourselves. We have to tell everyone immediately. Shoto, no! The Son of Endeavor's head snapped around. We should just let the pros take care of it. They'll save him soon. How soon is that going to be, Momo? Our friend is in the hands of villains currently trying to convert him into one of their own. Who knows what they're doing to him? The overwhelming amount of emotion from Todoroki was shocking to his friend. I can't just sit here and do nothing, Momo. He angrily clenched his fists, flames starting to lick up his left side. They extinguished as her hand found his shoulder and pulled him into a hug. He went limp, accepting the gesture of affection. Please, Momo, I have to do something. Izuku has helped me, he helped us so much. The desperate tone grated on the girl's conscience as he released a sign. We should talk to everyone else first, get their opinions on this first. But I agree with you, Shoto. The heroes have been very overly cautious. It could be many days before they decide to go rescue him. She created another receiver and gently placed it into his palm, curling his fingers over it. Don't let anyone see you with it, and talk to the rest of our classmates as soon as possible. Understand? He nodded, and the plan was set into action. The stars seemed to align for him as the entirety of the class, other than a couple of students who were recovering or otherwise, had gathered in Hagakure's room. The upbeat girl being one of the more injured students. Idle chatter was started, the topic of the class's missing piece being purposely avoided, until the heterochromatic boy joined the conversation. I have a method for getting Midoriya back. Not being one to waste time, he cut to the chase as silence quickly spread across the room. He explained the tracking chip Yaoyorozu had implanted and revealed the receiver as well as his rather reckless plan for going in to save him. That idea is utterly insane, Todoroki! We can't do something like that! Dual-colored eyes glared at the bespectacled boy who spoke against him. You said yourself that the heroes have the information. Let's leave it to them! You don't get it, do you? Anger seemed to burn behind Shoto's gray and blue eyes. They'll take way too long to do it. You've seen the articles too, about cases where the heroes just weren't able to get there in time. We all know how slow the hero system can move, and we can't waste precious time. This is unlike you, Todoroki! Why are you being so rash? Because one of my closest friends is trapped by villains who are probably trying to get them to join their cause! Everyone flinched at the male's loss of composure. A quiet shock registered in the room. I would have thought that you would understand my turmoil, Ida. After all, Izuku helped you just as much as he did with me. Tenya flinched as if he was struck by his classmate, staring down at the ground in shame. Some of the other students came to his aid, while others went against it. The most shocking case of argument was Katsuki agreeing that they should help their jungle-haired schoolmate. I'm gonna be 100% honest. There's a chance they might actually turn that shitty nerd into a villain. A vein twitched in his forehead as everyone began to deny his claims. He quickly yelled at all of them to shut up. "You haven't seen what I have, you damn extras!" Scarlet eyes blazed into fury. "So many people, including me, ridiculed and tormented the nerd over his quirk. But never once did he retaliate, even when things turned physical. He probably has a bunch of shit repressed inside of him. Can you imagine the temptation that he would feel because of that? Half of those damn villains were probably outcasts or unwanted. People like that would strike a kinship with Deku." Horrified realization spread across the class as they deduced there was an actual chance that the intelligent and calculator boy could actually be turned against them. The thought caused quite a few of their stomachs to roll and turn anxiously. "You see why we must act now?" A calm facade was back on Todoroki's face as he glanced at 1A. "We can't let them turn him. You don't have to accompany us, but just keep quiet about this. Got it?" Sharp eyes glared down at the other heroes in training. Most anxiously shifted, but two more stepped up to join the rescue team, Kirishima and Ida. The recruitment stage was over. No one else seemed to step up. The Son of Endeavor nodded at the ones who had stepped forward to assist him. They would soon be moving out, but for now it was time to prepare and quickly heal. Meanwhile, their missing classmate was also healing, in a location still unknown to them. Verdinian eyes snapped awake as Izuku jolted up. He was panting as he panically looked around at the unfamiliar surroundings. He was in a bed within a barren room. The walls and floor were a dark gray, and the monotony of the room reminded the adolescent of a prison cell.
"Ah, I see you have awoken, Izuku Midoriya."
The male's head whirled towards the voice, seeing the teleportation villain.
"I do apologize for your state. Muscular went a bit too far. Although the punishment you gave him seemed to have balanced the scales."
It wasn't a punishment. I was defending myself and Koda."
"Of course you were. But you doused the man quite heavily, didn't you?"
The jungle-haired teen could have sworn that if the villain had a mouth, it would be twisted into a smirk.
"It took a while for your toxin to finally reach his brain due to his sheer size, but it did so in such a powerful way. The dosage was so high that eventually he was left whimpering on the ground, muttering about how he wasn't a weakling. I must admit it was quite amusing. Although it's such a shame that he's of no use to us now because of it. He seems to be a shell of his old self currently."
The color drained completely from the boy's face as he shook his head, grasping tightly at one of his wrists. His breath began to speed up as a repetitive chant of "No" quietly left his lips. He didn't mean to do that to the felon. I mean, yes, he was a villain, but a hero isn't supposed to do that to a villain. A good hero only incapacitates the villains, not cripples their minds.
"You'll make an incredible villain, Izuku."
"No! I'll never be one of you!" He thrusted his hands forward, fully intending to blast away the felon, only to find nothing happening. "What the?"
"Ah, yes. While we did not bind you in fear of agitating your injuries, we do have you in quirk nullification bracelets. I shall be leaving you now to fetch you some food, as I have no doubt you're starving."
The sentence was punctuated by a stomach growl from Midoriya's tummy.
"I'll also be returning with a visitor. Tomura has been dying to meet you."
"No! Don't you dare leave me here!" He ran to the villain with his ribs aching in protest, only to arrive too late to grab hold of him. The hero in training stumbled to the floor before slamming the side of his fist against the floor repeatedly. He was all alone in a building which was likely full of villains. Life hated being pleasant towards him, didn't it? It was hours later until the one door that he had faced creaked open, and the misty figure came in with a tray of food. And Shigaraki.
"Ah, it's great to see you again, Midoriya."
The man opened his arms in a friendly gesture that did not soothe the teen at all.
"In a place like this where we can talk without being disturbed by any heroes."
He spat out the word with pure venom. The villain recomposed himself, staring at the jungle-haired adolescent from behind the hand on his face.
"You know why you're here, right, Midoriya? so that we can convince you to join the side you belong on.
I'm already on the side I belong on. The psychotic felon threw back his head and laughed, interrupting the boy.
Are you so sure about that, Midoriya? We've had some research done on you.
He pulled out a folder he had kept behind him and opened it up.
Let's see. An outcast student of Aldera Junior High, who was more or less a recluse. At least that's what your teacher said.
Izuku's breath caught in his throat, anxiety filling him, thoughts assaulting his mind, wondering how much they knew.
It was when we questioned some of your old classmates and parents that things got juicy.
The too large grin on his face was all too invisible.
Some of them were very given in the information. How they thought you were a little abomination, a villain in the making. How their precious babies were only defending themselves when they beat you down and hurled rocks at you.
Flashes of a long repressed childhood surged up from the depths of his subconscious. Phantom aches and pains began racing around his body as his breathing accelerated.
It is admirable how you stayed so determined to be a hero, Midoriya, after all the things that life threw at you.
Kurogiri began to join in on the conversation.
Your reactions, however, made me think that what we found only scratched the surface of what was done to you. That leaves us with a question. Why did you not seek retribution?
What are you talking about?
Oh, you know very well, kid. Taking revenge on the little bastards who made your life hell.
Tomura began closing the gap between him and Izuku.
I know you've thought about it. Imagine your tormentors riling on the ground in horror as their worst fears come to life. See them squirm and cry on the ground beneath you. See them lose their minds and fall into a comatose insanity.
The villain pulled pictures out of the folder, tossing them onto the bed. He explained that some of the sadistic bullies even went so far as to document their assault on the boy. It only further illustrated the sheer prejudice the Verdinian-eyed male went through. Even with the fact that actual proof of his abuse existed, the perpetrators were still never disciplined for their actions.
Doesn't that just infuriate you? Make you want to do something about it? You would feel so alive if you used your quirk on them. I can promise you that. The power you would feel would be indescribable.
The 1A student's chant of "No" began again as his breathing sped up more. He closed his eyes and violently shook his head as images of the villain's words appeared in his head. It had been years since he had ever thought of using his quirk like that, his mother keeping his mind from wandering into those dark places. However, Inko Midoriya was not here with her son this time. The people who were there wanted him to heed those horrible wants.
I think that's enough talking for now. We'll leave you to eat. Kurogiri!
The golden-eyed figure set the tray on the foot of the bed before going to stand by Shigaraki.
I'll be looking forward to speaking with you again, Midoriya.
The duo exited the room, leaving a shaken teenager behind. Izuku could barely calm himself. He was trembling badly as tears built up in his eyes as he felt his psyche being battered by hidden urges that he had remained unheeded for so long.
Please, help me.
He buried his head in his hands. He didn't want to know what else they could do to him if he was this broken after one talk. Days went by, and things grew worse for the mental state of the kidnapped UA student, while his friends got ready to go after him. The hero still had yet to make a move on the villains, despite having obtained the estimated location of the League. The 5 students had all completely recovered from their injuries, and were currently gathering together, formulating a plan for their rescue. Shoto looked up at the sky, gazing out into the distance, fists clenching tight. Momo put a hand on his shoulder and nodded. They were going after Izuku that very night, and nothing was going to stop them from getting their friend back. Thank you all for sticking around, and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would like to let you all know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your viewing and entertainment pleasures. All the information you need is right below here in the description, so feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I would like to thank everybody involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video, so goodbye and have a divine day.